40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
Bigton in Shropshire would mark the season finale in the Comp Safari Interclub Championship for 2019. The title may already have been decided, but that wasn't going to stop the others fighting for those class positions and, of course, just enjoying some competition out on the course this weekend. Bad rain in the lead-up to the event would mean the crews were faced with some pretty tricky conditions. Even just getting in and out of the venue was challenging enough for most. On to the morning runs then here in these challenging conditions, and we'd see Stuart and Joshua Winter taking that lead. A great start to the event for the pair, who open up a 9-second lead at this early stage. And with how close the championship has been this season, 9 seconds was a pretty good lead to have. Second at this stage will be Kevin Stubbs. The time's good and no issues to report. With the championship already sewn up at the last round, he didn't need to do anything silly this weekend, but you could guarantee one thing: those gloves would be off. And rounding out our podium at this early stage will be Peter Roberts, still having some issues with the gearbox, but with no time to fix it between events, it was just something he was having to manage round by round. Wyn Williams and Bert Buller would make a great start this weekend, ending the morning with a strong 4th position. Frustratingly though for the pair, that would be where it ends. They break a drive shaft coupling at the end of the morning's runs, and they wouldn't be back out for the afternoon. So for Mike Hannock, it will be 5th place now. That position, of course, set to change as soon as they start the afternoon with the loss of Wyn Williams. But for now, he was still needing to push and to put in those times. The car seemed to be holding up well for Tom Jones and Alice Fairbanks, the course allowing for each crew to pick their own lines through or around the mud, as it were. The pair end the morning with the lead in the Class 8 as well as 6th place on the overall leaderboard. Ground clearance would be the main issue for Gary Bull and Dave Moore, the Metro not being blessed with as much of it, shall we say, as they would have liked. That, coupled with the power sapping conditions, it was making for an overheating car as well. They do get through with a challenging 7th place overall. Simon and Danny Cooper wouldn't be complaining too much about these conditions. After all, a string of bad luck this season would mean they were just thankful to get this far, let alone in 8th place on the overall leaderboard. Things going well then for the pair as they lead the way in Class 2 as well. Matthew Jones would be another with some mixed luck today, shall we say. A good start to the event with 9th place overall, but frustratingly he'd retire and wouldn't be out again to fight in the afternoon. And rounding out the top 10 overall at this stage were Ollie and Phil Booth. They put in a good run to start the day, but overheating issues will be holding them back a little from then on in. In some of the positions outside of our top 10, it will be 12th place overall and 2nd in Class 2 for Michael Baisley and Tim Harris. They had a bit of a problem with the plug lead coming off in the morning, so things were not exactly running at 100% for the pair. For Matthew Booth, it will be the lead in Class 3 though, leading the way in that class by just less than 20 seconds at this stage. It was still close, particularly in these conditions. Second in that class would be Guy Fernihoe, not far off that lead, so a push will be on surely for the afternoon. A Dakar spec bowler probably isn't the first thing you think of for the mud of Shropshire, but Nigel Alcock and Millie Jones seemed to be going well in theirs this weekend. The talk of the car pulling them through these tricky conditions to lead their class from 19th overall. And it would be a class lead at this stage for Bill Hewitson as well, leading the way in Class 6 for now. Joe and Rupert Asprey, meanwhile, keep the car on all four wheels this time out, ending the morning second place in Class 4, just struggling with a lack of power for these conditions. Just the one crew still running in Class 7, so that would be the class lead, of course, for Graham Sturrock at the midpoint in the event. But don't underestimate the challenge of getting to the finish of an event like this. For Mark Allard, it would be second place in Class 6, a little way back from the class lead, but going as well as he possibly could in the conditions. Some bad news now for Jasmine Philpott and Peter Widdup. They were running well on the opening runs of the day, but overheating issues would mean a maximum time and game over for the pair. It would also be game over for a number of other crews on our leaderboard as well. We lose Tom and Sam Smith. They struggled a bit too much with the mud, calling it a day when the car started to overheat. A similar story too for this man, David Wilson. He was getting stuck in many places around the course, deciding again to call it a day on run 2. The car was cutting out. Perhaps it was the car's way of saying it had had too much. And unfortunately for Tim Padfield, he wouldn't catch the overheating in time, the car throwing all manner of things out of the engine, including its water, in a big steam cloud midway around the lap. He gets to the end, but goes no further. So we're midway through the event then. The leaderboard is starting to shape up like this. On to the afternoon then, and a look at the final results here in a very wet Shropshire. For Ollie and Phil Booth, it wasn't going to be the result that they wanted. They take a maximum on the final run of the event to avoid any lasting damage to the car. 22nd overall, second in the class. There'd been no change in Class 6. Mark Allard holding on to that second place in class through the afternoon and on to the finish of the event. It would be a good end to the day and indeed to the season for Joe and Rupert Asprey. Apart from the role at the previous round, they had a good, clean season and a great return to competition after a number of years out of the seat. Second in Class 4 this weekend, 20th overall was not a bad result to show for their efforts. No change, of course, for our lone Class 7 survivor. And survivor's the word in these conditions, right? Graham Sturrock keeping things going to the finish to take that class victory. And for Bill Hewitson, there'd be no change at the top of the Class 6 leaderboard, keeping that lead through the day to take the class win. Class 3, meanwhile, would see a bit of change as we see Roger and Callum Edge ending the event second in that class, as well as 17th overall. And it would be a great end to the season for Nigel Alcock and Millie Jones. They take a convincing victory in the class this weekend, enough in fact to ensure that they take the Class 4 championship this season, plus 11th overall. A great year then for the pair. There's further change in Class 3 up the leaderboard as we see second place Guy Fernyhough step up to take the class lead through the afternoon. A strong class win this weekend then in 12th place overall. Paul and Kyle Shaw had been sharing the driving this weekend, with Carol Shaw doing the co-driving. They, like many others, would be suffering with overheating problems, but they get a good third place in Class 2 finish, as well as 11th on our leaderboard. We move on then to the top 10, and rounding out those positions at the end of the event will be Dilwyn and Medwyn Davies. They'd finished every event that they entered this year, which was a pretty good achievement. They did have a few issues this weekend with the power steering, but some emergency repairs and the car held out to keep their record intact. Michael Baisley and Tim Harris will be having some problems with the fans in the afternoon, and not the ones lining the course either, the ones inside the car. Despite that though, it will be a 9th place finish, second in Class 2, their best result of the season. And it would be a great end to the event for Charlotte Plant. Clearly going well, she makes her way up the leaderboard and into the top 10, taking 8th place by the finish. A welcomed result after a grueling event for Gary Bull and Dave Moore in that Metro, literally scraping around the course to end the event with 7th place overall, 5th in the class. For Simon and Alex Cooper, a finish would have been enough, but to take the Class 2 victory, as well as 6th overall, was a more than welcome result. This crew, of course, a major part in the organisation of the championship, and passing on their thanks to all of the competitors, landowners, and everyone else who's helped this season and making all that hard work worthwhile behind the scenes. Tom Jones and Alice Fairbanks would be a little surprised with their result this weekend. They take the Class 8 victory and a pretty fantastic 5th place overall. The last event of the season would be indeed the last chance for Mike Hannett to try for that victory. It wasn't to be though. 4th place to end the event, but with some good pace once again this weekend, and indeed that pace that we'd seen all season long. That victory can't be far away. With those ongoing gearbox gremlins, there wasn't much more that Peter Roberts could do. A podium place this weekend, though, was a strong end to the season. The conditions here certainly taken out of both driver and car. And for Kevin Stubbs, it's second. The car sporting some wooden repairs by the end of the day, but he does keep things going to take second this weekend, adding another strong finish to a very successful season. And that, of course, means it's victory for Stuart and Joshua Winter. They hadn't been out on all the rounds this year, but when they had, they'd made the most of it, pushing well and getting a result. A great end to the season, and certainly potential contenders if they come out for a full season fighting in 2020. So with this final event, and indeed with it, the championship complete, and what a grueling and fitting contest to end on. The results at the top look like this.
Yeah, 2 finishes and 2 wins, so yeah, really pleased with it. It's a hard event today though, but yeah, the weather held off enough in the end and it was good.
Was there a tactic to the course out there or just flat out?
Just flat out, as much power as you could get on the ground, that was it. Just bury the throttle and go.
Ravenol has been developing high-performance lubricants for the automotive industry since the 1940s, and Motorsport is a vital proving ground for that technology, with associations from the grassroots of the sport right to the very top as official lubricants partner for the Sport Pezza Racing Point Formula One team. And I'm aiming high because today I'm going to take you on a tour behind the scenes at the factory, the heart of this partnership, the place where the cars are built. And I've picked a good week to do it as well. The excitement is high. We're just 4 days away from lights out at the 2019 British Grand Prix. And from the entrance to the factory here, you can actually see the famous Silverstone circuit. But before any action goes on the tarmac out there, a lot of hard work and preparation must go on behind the scenes in here. Come with me. Okay, so I know, like me, the first thing you want to see is the racing car. So here it is, Lance Stroll's number 18 car in the race bay. But we'll come back to this. We have to start at the beginning, so follow me. Now, before we go back down to the race bay and give you an exclusive look at where the cars are prepared prior to a race weekend, I thought we'd give you a whistle-stop tour of the build process, which starts right here in the design office. Every single one of these computer screens in this vast office, and the other one working on next year's regulations, translates to something you will see on a race weekend for the Sports Pezza Racing Point Formula One team. That is a lot of computer and a lot of brain power. Formula One teams are constructors, which means they design and build the cars from scratch, which means this whole operation is based around manufacturing. Everything you see in the design shop is piped down to, for example, the machine shop here, which builds everything that is metal on the car. Now, this fascinates me. Even something as simple in our minds as a wheel nut has secret parts to it. So we're going to have a look in there, but we're going to have to be careful what we show you. Come on. It's really true that a lot of Formula One technology filters down to road cars, and everyone knows about carbon fibre, and in part, Formula One had a big part to play in the part that carbon fibre now plays in road car and other technologies and industries such as aviation and marine. And what you see here are parts which are vacuum bagged, which will soon be carbon fibre components on the car. We're in the laminating room. This is where the carbon fibre gets prepared before going down to the autoclave. I'm going to go down to the autoclave now. I'll meet you there, but first have a look around and see how it's all put together in here. Okay, so you've been in the laminating area, you've seen all the composite components being prepared, ready to come down here to the autoclave. It's basically a giant pressure cooker. The parts are baked so they'll be really strong on the car out on the circuit. And talking of the circuit, one of the racing drivers, Sergio Perez, has just arrived here at the factory. So I'm going to go and meet him, and you get to meet him in just a minute.
So Sergio, you've been in Formula One 10 years now. The sport has changed so much in that time. Can you tell us a few of the big changes?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one that I've been through is the engine, going from V8 to the hybrid era. That was the biggest change I went through.
Has that been a good change, do you think, for the sport?
I love the sound of the Formula One, so that's something that we miss. But on the other hand, Formula One has to be the pinnacle in technology to attract the biggest manufacturers in the world, so I think it's a logical move.
Welcome to Mission Control, so called because whenever there's a car on the racetrack or there's a driver in the simulator, there's a support team of engineers in here gathering data just as they would at the track side. And if you can imagine the Australian race, for example, which takes place English time in the middle of the night, these engineers in here have to come in at actual race time. So there's a night shift. They run the race back at base. Okay, so we've designed the car, we've gone through the laminating rooms, we've gone to the autoclave, we've been to the machine shop, we've built the car. And here it is. We're back in the race bay. Now normally these two bays here are a hive of activity because the two race cars come back from whatever race, they get here, they get stripped down, they get rebuilt ready for the next race with then new parts and new development that needs to go into them, ready to go back on the track and go out and get some more points for the team. And of course, just 5 minutes walk from here right now, preparations are ongoing at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. And it all starts here in the race bay.
First of all, Otmar, talking from a Ravenel point of view, they're so proud to be involved with Sport Pesa Racing Point Formula One team.
Well, and we're lucky and proud to have them. We value all of our technical partners, especially Ravenel, and we are very selective in who we take on, and they've been a great partner of ours, and long may it continue.
So here we are right back where we started at the reception to the factory of the Sport Pesa Racing Point Formula One team, a team with huge ambition and aspiration. And as you heard from Sergio Perez himself, the best is still to come from this partnership.
Saloon car racing is one way that Ravenel uses its motorsport partnerships to establish a clear link between motor racing and road car technology. Of course, the oil that they develop is high performance, and the British Touring Car Championship is the cream of the crop when it comes to saloon car racing in the UK. We've come down to BTC Racing, who run the Hondas in the British Touring Car Championship, to speak to Chris Smiley and the men behind the partnership here between Ravenel and this front-running British Touring Car team. Chris, we're stood beside a car which so far might not have stood you with much luck so far this year, but the pace has been there. Big things to come.
Yeah, I think sometimes in motorsport it's easy to get a little bit of luck and not have the pace, but this year we have had plenty of pace and no luck whatsoever. But Yeah, we're working really hard, both me and the team. As I say, it's my third year with the team. We're working really hard. The pace is quite evidently there. All we need now is a little bit of luck, and the results definitely will come. We have finished second this year, a few rounds ago. So yeah.
And it was a solid second as well. It was a qualify second, race to second, wasn't it?
Yeah, we stuck it on the front row in qualifying. Probably if we'd had another lap in qualifying, we probably could have been in pole position. But yeah, we put it in the front row. We finished where we started. To do in the BTCC nowadays, to do that, you don't get a lucky second position, because it's the depth of talent throughout the field is so tough. But yeah, it's very positive. Just need a little bit of luck.
You mentioned experience. Obviously, your experience inside the car counts, having been with the team for 3 seasons through different guises as well. But also, experience counts outside of the car. And the partners that the team has, including Ravenol, of course, that's important as well for building that team as you go forward, isn't it?
Absolutely. 3 years in the same team, you get to know everyone well. As you said, Ravenol, to have them as a partner and to come in on the scale that they have and help us out, it really makes you proud to carry their brand. Do you know that you have all the experience behind you?
That's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes people just see a sponsor on a door or a wing and just assume there's just a bit of money being put towards it, but it's the experience.
Yeah, the experience and all the technical knowledge that they have. Obviously, they're in Formula One. Formula One is the oldest motorsport series in the world. The BTCC is the 3rd oldest motorsport series in the world. So, yeah, to have that sort of prestige, to be involved in our team, it's absolutely fantastic.
But you are one of the men behind this partnership between Ravenol and BTC Racing. You're the man behind BTC Racing. What does it take to create partnerships that are long-lasting and really do add value when you're racing?
The first thing really is to find the brand that suits what you do, and obviously for me, Ravenol has been a massive part of my racing since 2002 with Chris Stockton. So the brand for itself really speaks for itself as well, because obviously it's been a fantastic partnership and Brian and the guys there do a fantastic job. So for me, they were always coming back. It just took a bit longer than I thought.
The big dream, that the poetry in motorsport, is the private teams taking on the works teams and winning. And at the moment, you've got the pace to beat the factory Honda team in Hondas. That must feel pretty good from your point of view.
Yeah, of course. But again, we're one team. We're only custodians of those cars. As you know, the Honda team build them, and we just get. Are we fortunate? Yes, of course we are. We're fortunate to be able to run them, and we're very fortunate to be able to take them on at this level, and we've done a fantastic job, no doubt about that.
To prove your experience in the field like that is obviously a testament to all of those partnerships that you have, but also your own experience in the sport.
Yeah, obviously, I've been around for quite a while, and I've done, as you can see, lots of different forms of motorsport, and I still enjoy what I do, so that drives me on. I have 2 fantastic pedallers, there's no doubt about that, and I have other things as well, that appeal to me. As you've seen, we're building a new sim, and there's lots of things go on here, so it's exciting. Every day is exciting.
So there you go, another high-end motorsport partnership from Ravenol and BTC Racing that translates exactly to what happens in the technology that you use every day when you use Ravenol products in your road car.